In 1993, the new Western head of American Express Taiwan called me a racist in the middle of a training course to the bank's senior Chinese managers. He then stood up and said, "What you are saying about Chinese communication can't be true." The students said nothing and looked nowhere. The room was totally silent. Before I could respond, he left the room, saying he'd put a stop to this. The course, How to Work in a Western Company, ended early. I often have good ideas in bad situations. I realized that the problem wasn't Chinese communication. The problem was the new manager couldn't fathom that Chinese communication might follow a totally different cultural logic. Why did he call me a racist? Well, he thought I was insulting the Chinese. But the Chinese managers didn't complain about what I'd been saying. They already knew everything I was describing. If anything, they were surprised that I knew so much about Chinese culture. The easy answer to why he said that is ignorance. Not just new to the job, it was only his second week in Taiwan, and it was his first overseas assignment. But calling this ignorance is too easy. The problem wasn't ignorance of Chinese culture. The problem was something way deeper, one culture thinking. He'd grown up in a one-culture society, so of course he had one culture thinking. What's that, you ask? Well, when you grow up and live in a society where the culture hardly changes for thousands of miles, you assume your culture is normal and others are deviations. He literally couldn't imagine that what I said about Chinese communication could be true. It sounded like insults to him. The necessary first step in cultural competence isn't learning facts about cultures. Learning what to do and how to do it are important, certainly, but they show how to use cultural competence, not how to achieve it. The key first step in becoming cultural competent is accepting that other cultures are legitimate. Once you accept another culture as legitimate, the next question becomes, why does that culture work the way it does? And once you understand the why, their strange behaviors start to make sense. Most one culture thinkers don't reject other cultures because they dislike them. They reject them because they can't imagine them. I know this because it happened to me. For my first year in Taiwan, I thought the Chinese were playing with me, that what I saw and experienced couldn't be true. My friends explained it to me, but it still didn't make much sense. It was all so very different. It was not until I learned why Chinese do what they do that I accepted the differences as legitimate, not something made up to annoy and confuse me. Cultural competence begins when you stop asking, is what they are doing right, and start asking, why does this make sense to them? Learning how Chinese thought and why was the start of my fascination about cultures. Helping people stop relying on one culture thinking became my career. And now, over 30 years later, I still love my job.